Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to this season 2 of the new show. You know, in the annals of history, there has been great television that have marked the ages. You know, I'm thinking I grew up with the likes of The Odd Couple, MASH, Star Trek, Laverne and Shirley, and I would dare say that the new show from last year fits that bill in my book. One of the greatest shows of all time. And that show would have not been so great had it not been for my sidekick. Lo and behold, Mr. Nicholas Petru. People know him as Paul Newman on the D3 boards. Wonderful man. Kenyan through and through, soccer devotee, almanac of D3 soccer. But it's been a difficult road since the end of last year. We've come to loggerheads on a number of things. The contract to get him back on board was a very arduous process. But I'm happy to announce that in this season 2, rather than replacing the irreplaceable Nicholas Petru, we have him here again on the new show, season 2. So, Mr. Petru, great to see you, buddy.
Great to see you, buddy.
Hey, love your YouTube studio. You have not commented on the lights.
Oh my God!
I mean,
Yeah, you have.
I've upped the
No,
game.
that's sweet.
I've
That's
upped the
sweet.
game. Would you like me to change it to purple? Would you feel more at home if I changed the colors to purple?
We probably got enough purple going.
Yeah, we do. I do have a program for purple and white for Mount Union, so maybe. Hey, it is great to see you. Just for the folks who are watching, this is more of an ad lib. We're gonna have some fun with different topics, and we're just gonna talk through and banter about the game, and stuff. So. I'm going to open this up. If you want to say, do you want to say anything, or do you want me to just open this up?
Yeah, I have a couple of opening remarks.
Go forth on the opening remarks, brother.
Well, first of all, great intro. You already ruined one of my segments with one of my segments was for the lightning round was favorite shows from the 70s and 80s.
Are you serious? Are you serious?
Yes. That's like item 7B.
Oh my God, that is hysterical. Oh Lord. Oh my.
And then I realized I think you're like you're probably at least half a decade or more younger than me. So I thought, I don't know if he knows the 70s.
The Brady Bunch. Come on. I grew up on all of those great shows.
No, I had a whole lineup. I had the Andy Griffith Show, and that went into Gilligan's Island, and then my sister made me watch like the Partridge Family. And no, that's when. Now we're gonna sound like. Anyway.
Oh, no, this could not start better.
Yeah, I mean, the TV shows and this. I mean, that was the heyday of television.
Oh my God! Can we go back, please?
Yeah.
Everything's so dark now. Do you ever notice that? Everything's like dark and mean. I don't know.
No, it's fun to go back and watch Gunsmoke, and then you realize as an adult you can tell that it's just a TV set instead
of sometimes the door falls off, Like
right. Festus, that's Festus doing that.
Yeah.
So I did have some doubts about obviously every season except for one team. Although I think Williams probably ended up pretty happy. I'm still, and it's interesting that Williams is getting so much attention right now. But
not in a good way.
Right. But it's but
And
it's going back and forth. It's
yeah,
who knows, but season 2, episode 1. I'm like, you know, I I've been getting really excited about it, and as I just told you a minute ago, at least during my time with D3 soccer, which is I don't know 12 or 13 years, I don't think it's ever been better. And I'm not a historian, but there was it almost got boring that Messiah was so good.
yeah,
Then Tufts had their run, but now it feels like, I mean, those two teams, definitely Messiah this year. I mean, they're definitely right there in the mix, but instead of like it would be an upset for anybody to beat Messiah, I think now there's at least, every year now, I think there's at least 5 to 7 teams, maybe even 10 to 12 that they could beat Messiah and it wouldn't be really considered an upset.
yeah.
But they're, and these, Tufts ended, then we got, I can't remember, who won the first year after Tufts?
Look that up.
Well, Messiah got one in between some of those Tufts ones. Then there was Chicago last year. Then we had the COVID debacle. But anyway, we've seen, obviously the NESCACs are still dominating, but I just feel like there's the teams are better, the coaches are good. I don't know if you think the players are better.
I'm gonna do this. So I just did today. You and I participate in the same D3 boards fan poll, right? Like the top 25, which I don't understand the top 25, but whatever. Top 25. And every time I do that, it's so not scientific for me. It's just like, I don't like these guys, the way they play, so I knock them down 3 ranks. I don't care what their record is.
Right.
So there is very much do I like them, gives them more credit if they don't. And I legitimately try to say, at what level do I think any of these teams could win a national championship based on what I've watched?
Yeah.
Both and what I do, both the men and women. Like if you're in the rankings because I watched you, even if it's for 15 minutes, at least I got a sense of how you play. And I was looking at it, and I think in my ranking, like I have Cortland State at number 18. I think Cortland State could play to win a national championship. I think a lot of things, don't get me wrong, I think a lot of things got to fall into place. And they're probably farther away than, let's say, obviously Chicago is. I think Chicago's really close to it. Messiah, and right? But I think they legitimately could. The calendar works out their way. So I think I do think it's very deep, and I will agree with you. I maybe it's just my interviews. I don't know, but I mean the quality of coaches is legit. Like there's some really talented coaches out there, and look, all respect to Jay and at Ohio Wesleyan and the older coaches, but it's almost to. Like there's a multitude of Jays out there at just starting their careers that have the same soccer knowledge and the way to manage a program that I think in 20 years from now we'll be talking about them. So I'm in agreement with you. I think it's the best it's been in at least my last 3 years, 2 years, whatever, that I've been really tracking it. So definitely better than when I played. So
Yeah.
So.
In terms of the number, Cortland I think is a great example because I was thinking with who before last season, how many? I mean, now we think they're good because we
Yeah.
saw the whole thing. But I mean, how
Yep.
many people would have predicted Stevens and Mary Washington in the Final
Exactly. No.
Four? Or Williams, who people
Yeah,
still
yeah.
don't think should have even gotten in the tournament.
Yes, I am a total agreement with you. The only one legitimate, they're all legitimate, but you get my point. Like the only legitimate Final Four team, realistically, was Chicago. Like if you would have to pick somebody, like
Right.
nobody, I don't care like who said, nobody had them in the Final Four, let alone in the finals.
Right, it's like March Madness where the number
Yeah.
one seeds all
Yep. Yeah.
Chicago was the only number one seed.
Right, exactly. So, yeah. So I and like I said, I think it gets better. And something to be said. I'm not too impressed with Chicago. The bits I've watched, something doesn't look right. They don't look as high powered. So I could totally see some other teams coming, superseding them. I think St. Thomas is really good. I think Calvin looks awesome, right? Like, again, another team. It's always been on the periphery, like, just needs that break. Maybe this is the year. I don't know.
Yeah.
Hey, so, I mean, you're donning all the gear, so we do have to jump into Kenyon conversation here because you're bringing it up, whether you intentionally realize it or not. But new coach, new era, some struggles to start. Where's your head out with this Kenyon team led by one of those outstanding young coaches who just so happens to be a Ohio Wesleyan grad in Travis
Right.
Hall?
I mean, overall, I just feel completely elated about it. I do feel, I mean, Coach Brown and I never had any kind of relationship. I mean, maybe a quick email twice in 15 years. I mean, back when my son was playing.
He was really personable.
Right. That's his strong suit.
Yeah.
But I mean, what he did there, and I mean, I think I feel so bad that, and the group of players, and you liked a lot of them, like Luke
Yeah.
Muther, and
Yeah.
like that whole group, they were so close, and he got so close so many times, and
Yeah.
and just, I mean, now people talk about him too much, like me, but I mean, they were not even on the radar more than a decade ago. So I can't. I mean, I think he deserves just so much credit. But now that this has happened, I've joked, I think on the board and like with you, like I'd sort of throw out like, oh, is there any possible way we could get Travis Wall? And then like we got effing Travis Wall.
Yeah. I was surprised.
Yeah, I don't know what your rules are about language.
There are no. Haven't you learned anything yet? Like there are no rules.
I haven't heard anybody cursing yet on one of your shows.
Yeah. Oh, I've cursed.
But yeah, I mean, and you asked me how I felt about that he's from Owu. I'm like, I'm perfectly happy. I mean, I feel like that dynamic needed to shift anyway, and now that the two biggest rivals are also Owu people, at Denison and obviously at Owu, I think they're going to be great, intense rivalry games, but the sort of, I'm not sure all those people liked each other before, or how they felt. And Kenyon sort of turned the tables on Owu, for a good more than half decade.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just, I knew my son played against Travis Wall.
Yeah. Oh, the actual player, the national player?
Oh, yeah, he was on the... They were on the field. Like my son was a freshman when Travis was a senior.
Yeah.
I think I wrote that my son had an assist against OWU, and then Travis Wall
Scored
I don't know,
3.
probably the 63rd minute tied it up. And then he probably had the assist for the game-winning goal in the 85th minute. Anyway, yeah, and then I watched all of their games to win the national championship. They were like behind. He's not going to believe that I remember this. They were like behind to Ohio Northern, like in probably the Sweet 16. I think they were down 2-0 or 2-1, and he just like pulled off 2 miraculous goals, and then they pretty much dominated in the Final Four. But then, yeah, I knew he was trying to play professionally a little bit, and then obviously I knew those years when he was an assistant, and then what he did at St. Olaf.
He put them on the radar.
Yeah. And I have, the 3, I don't consider myself having a real sense of Jay Martin necessarily, which is weird, but the 3 people that I think about the most with OWU are Travis, Bianco, and then the guy who was incredible on the D3 site for years, who unfortunately he and I had a few too. It was just like too intense. But they are, and then you couldn't. They're all 3 of them are like super, super intelligent. They, look like they have super, super high character. I think the fact that he's younger is outstanding, and hopefully he'll be there a long time.
Yeah, I think they're in great hands and such a great choice. And I would argue that those 3 Ohio Wesleyan teams, John Carroll, Case Western, Ohio Northern, and then Mount Union, especially seemingly this year, in sort of that order, like 7. Those are 7 outstanding schools, all within 2 hours of each other. From a soccer perspective, that is just incredible. And I think Kenyon, I no doubt Kenyon will be. Even this year. I was just looking at their roster. I think they have some injuries, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, they do. They in fact, Martinez hasn't played yet, but then against St. Olaf late, they had two of their own players went up for like a header and
knocked unconscious.
I think they both got fairly seriously injured or concussed, and they didn't play today.
But I'm just looking. They beat Wilmington, so now they're 3-2. And I think I'll chalk up that John Carroll loss as sort of like an anomaly. Those Ohio Northern and John Carroll, but I think it's just a matter of time before he's got them running, hitting on all cylinders.
Yeah, I think John Carroll's going to be tough, but it did. But Ohio Northern, they got 2 PKs, so that's a little bit distorted.
Yeah. All right, so
I could not. Even though they lost the first 2 games and all that, like I don't.
Who could have been better? Seriously. Yeah. Like when you're looking at the run of the table, like who could be better? Guy who knows like Ohio, he's been recruiting nationally for St. Olaf. What Kenyon's going to need, because that's the type of school it is. Like I just don't see who they would get that would sort of fit that bill.
I don't. Yeah, especially
Yeah.
somebody who isn't. My other choice would have been Bianco. Actually.
Yeah.
But he's got a tremendous setup now at Denison.
And they'll be. That's another one. Give it time.
You're not going to get the Tufts coach to come or Amherst.
No, that's what I mean. Like you're not.
Yeah.
Of a legitimate pool of coaches, who would have been better? Like
Right.
I said, I mentioned it to you earlier. I'm surprised. What surprised me wasn't the fact that they got him. It was like they actually took a Ohio Wesleyan grad as their head coach.
Yeah.
Just as a, I don't know why. But I just thought like, there's probably, again, you have Jay Martin who won't speak the word Kenyan, or I don't even think it's on its lexicon of words that he's ever used in his lifetime. And then I always thought like Kenyon is like the anti-Ohio Wesleyan place. So,
Yeah. I think it shifts the dynamic a little bit to where maybe people can feel a little bit more like, wouldn't it be great if both teams do great?
yeah.
And then if your team loses, you even maybe cheer for the others. You know.
Yeah. Although the my conversations with Jay where he would purposely find ways to dance around talking about Kenyon.
Yeah, I think
and other schools have done really well. Like, wait, what about the other schools?
I think you've interviewed him. You've interviewed him like 12 times, and he hasn't said Kenyon once.
Oh,
He'll mention Denison.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, Dennis, great down the street.
Yeah.
Oh, great rivalry, great. It was really good. And there's other schools. Like, okay.
Right.
I got to be nice. Like, I got to keep him getting back on the show. So I'm like,
one of the funny things about Jay Martin is he actually grew up like 5 minutes from where I am. Like I think like I'm a forensic psychologist, so I work in the courts. Like one of the courts I cover is the Hingham District Court, and he was raised in Hingham. So I mean, it's small world, I guess.
Small world. All right. So, what surprised you so far? Anything?
What has surprised me?
Or disappointed, to steal your
Yeah,
thunder?
I mean, there's some obvious teams that have had a slow start, and I think last year there were some, including Owu and St. Olaf, who got it together and then went on big runs. So I'm not the teams that have a slow start now, like my own and like Washington and Lee, Johns Hopkins.
Yeah.
St. Olaf, obviously.
Yeah.
I think some or most of them will get things in the right direction.
Yeah.
One that I'm not, I think there's something wrong at NYU. I think they're a disappointment. And I know, like I don't know if there's a playback. Well, there's probably a playback of the Messiah NYU game, but even the Messiah announcers were sort of commenting about the sort of vibe of the players, NYU players. I mean, and they were right there I think that was the Williams game, which was, I think it was a 1-goal game. But so, NYU, Hamilton has been a disappointment so far. I don't know that I expected, I don't know. I didn't expect them to be 0-3, I think they are now. Oh, no, they lost to Williams yesterday.
Yeah.
Babson, Vassar, St. Lawrence a little bit. The two Tennessee schools that sort of had their moment in the sun last year, Sewanee and Rhodes. I don't think either one of them are doing particularly well.
No.
Luther, I know you're a big Luther fan.
Yeah. And
they're struggling.
Yeah, they're struggling. Yeah.
UWEC,
Eau Claire.
Mr. Sager taught me how to pronounce Wisconsin Eau Claire. Is that it?
I think so. That's what I say.
No, I say Eau Claire, and then he corrected me. I think it's Eau Claire. Anyway, but they've played Chicago, and
Yeah.
they've had a tough schedule.
Yeah, that's the game against Chicago too. I think they lasted 3/4 of the game where they kept it tight, and then I think Chicago just opened it up.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And then there's some teams that are doing really well, like they always do. Everybody gets excited that they're 4-0 or 5-0, and like which one of those are going to turn out to be for real? Like your Mount Union.
Yeah.
One, I actually am. I didn't expect this at all. But Carleton beat Gustavus today, 1-0. So they're like 5-0.
5-0. I actually
4-0 or
watched
5-0.
20 minutes of a game they played, one of their first games, and I actually thought they looked like pretty good. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest, like first team really on the radar for me. I was like, oh, these guys are interesting, you know.
Yeah.
So as a mental note.
And another team in that same league, kind of similar categories, McAllister, who I think they've had a couple of ties, but they've had some good wins. Who are they? They're playing somebody tonight, I think. Where's my list of important games? Yeah, anyway. They're playing St. John's tonight, who also is pretty tough in that region. And then they have Gustavus on Saturday, I think. And then Carleton they had Gustavus today, and then we'll see how they do against North Central on Sunday.
Yeah.
And then Denison's got off. I know he's like devastated that they had a tie at Franklin. But, there's Widener, who people love, UMass Boston, Scranton. Did they tie last night or they win?
They won 1-0.
Yeah. Over however you say that.
Misericordia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
RIT, some people like. Loris is off to a good start. I wanted to talk about Loris earlier when we were talking about the coaches because
new coach.
They were. People forget they were in the national championship game in 2015 against Amherst, and they had a run of going to the Final Four that was, if they'd won a couple of them, people would have said they were tough. I mean, they were considered right there with Messiah as like the number 2 program in the country for like probably.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
5 to 7 years or so.
They lost 2-1.
But then he left after that, and then they have struggled. And one of their alums, Sam Koenig, I think, who was at maybe Platteville, moved to Loris when the Loris coach went back to Capital because he's a Capital guy.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's in the last couple of years, Loris has been sort of ticking upwards a little bit. Yeah. But that's I don't know. They play in like the Rock Bowl, which is
Rock Bowl, really?
Yeah. It's called the Rock Bowl.
To pull that one up.
But and I used to really like Loris, and there were 2 or 3 major Loris posters on the board that you never see anymore.
All right, so I have 2 surprises for me. And
okay.
because I talked to the coaches and I thought, oh my gosh, I got to watch now, and I watched and how really impressed I am. I'm not so sure I'm too keen on their soccer, but they're really effective. University of Wisconsin Platteville.
Yeah.
They're
Pioneers, right?
Yeah, a little bit run and gunnish, a little bit like, hey, we're taking our 6'5" farm boys and just putting it into the mixer, but they're really effective. But a team that surprised me that I think is actually really good, moves the ball really well, SUNY New Paltz.
Yep. They beat Vassar. They beat Vassar today.
Yeah. Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they're good. Like I mean, Oneonta, Cortland, Brockport last year. I mean, these guys are legit.
New Paltz actually had a pretty good last year too.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then the other one you mentioned on the downside, you mentioned St. Lawrence. Yeah, that uh, losing, graduating, whatever. Marvin Sabanda, I think, will hurt anyone because probably the void is so great. But the other one that I'm surprised with that I was expecting more of all teams is Penn State Behrend. That isn't. I don't even know what their record is, but I don't think they're doing particularly well. So yeah, but
Yeah, they used to be like 19-2 and win their conference every
yep,
year.
yeah. So and maybe it's just the early part of the season. And I will say, like, this probably get me in trouble, but I'll blame you. I'm not impressed with Chicago. Something is they're not last year's team. I you know, they're not as smooth. I've been expecting more. Maybe that's wrong of me, and so my expectations are a lot higher. But I thought they would be looking better. I'm just not sure they are.
I think that's probably going to be your only mistake this year.
Really?
That yeah, I think. Yeah, I've actually watched them a couple of times, maybe, I don't know, 30, 40 minutes. But and I think they have a couple of people out too, but they've played good. They tied Gustavus, and
Yep.
then they just beat North Park last night. And I can't remember every game they've played is tough, but
So they beat St. Olaf 4-2, which I thought was a lot tighter than what the score shows. They tied Gustavus. I did not see that game. I watched the Eau Claire game where, like I said, I don't know if it was the 70th minute. Let me see if I could pull it up. It was late in the game where they pulled ahead.
Yeah, I just think they still have Yadashevsky, and then the two or three really incredible freshmen they had last year, and now I think one of them might be injured. But obviously they're going to miss those two center backs.
Yeah.
Their goalie is their keeper is really. He made a couple of saves against North Park that were incredible.
Yeah. And I'm going to give a shout out to one other team. It's the University of Paywall. All right, Rochester is. I'm not sure they're. I'm not sure how long they have. Like, I think they started out, 7-8-0, and then just once the UAA got kicking, they came crashing down to earth a little bit. But they can play. Much as it pains me. Well, I'll just say they can play. And when I've watched them, it's because they're away. So I'm assuming that when they play away and they still win, beat Alverny, I watched that game. Mm-hmm. They must be better at home, but nobody can watch it because they're obvious paywall. So
yeah, we all joke. They take a lot of flack on the board, but Rochester is an incredible program, and they were just in the Final Four 3 or 4. I think before the COVID year.
COVID, yeah.
But I sort of think of them along with the same as Oneonta and Cortland, and probably good chance to be a Sweet 16 team, but might be tough to get much further.
Yeah, I think they have. I think they end up. They have the talent, and then it's just a matter of do they get the right combination in a particular year to take them to that highest level. Otherwise, I think they end up falling short. And again, like I said, look, they're going to have to play Chicago, Carnegie Mellon, Case. You're going to have to, like, Emory. Like, these are,
Yeah.
I think they're at home for Case, NYU, and Brandeis. But, yeah. So I don't think the road gets any easier for them. But, as of right now, they're looking pretty good, even though they tied to their crosstown rivals yesterday. And they were down 3-2, and they came back with a game winner, or game tying goal.
Yeah.
Let me see. Looking at my notes. Where am I? All right, what else you got? Anything?
Well, I got to give you a couple of games for the weekend, just not to drone on about, but mention. But I also wanted to do my little lightning round session with you,
Oh, let's do it.
if you don't mind. Okay. I think one of these I asked you last year, and I'm so old I forgot already. But what is the whole thing about raising one arm or two arms on corner kicks and free kicks? Like, why do some people do it and some don't? And it always annoys
There's
me.
the basic one is, so there's two, right? Well, it could be like just a signal. Everybody's in their position, and so when they drop the hand, that means I'm going to start my kick. And so it signals the guys to make their runs. Some people use them as plays, right, left,
Yeah.
and then both. So you have three different types of, hey, I'm going to go near, I'm going to go middle, I'm going to go far. But
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, for most college kids, it's like they're like, wait, does that mean he's just going, or was that the play? Like, they never remember like what they're supposed to be doing at the time, and then they just
But
go.
you're not required. You're not required.
No,
to
there's
do it.
no requirement. It's usually, like I said, this or whatever,
Right.
just to signal to the guys, like, I'm going to start my approach to hit the ball, start your runs.
Right. Yeah. If you find the clip from last year, I bet it sounds exactly like the last 60 seconds. 'Cause I think you said the exact same
Exactly,
things, and I said the exact same stupid things.
Yeah. It used to be like all the rage for a while. Like, you would yell out numbers too. You'd yell out, like, you'd have plays, corner kick
Yeah.
plays. Now, to me, most teams have like two. They have everyone starting at the 18-ish, like they come up with a configuration, or what I call is crash, which is everybody is in the 6 and they're just going to lump it in and fight for survival. So,
All right. Well, this is the lightning round, so we
all
got to
right,
move
lightning
on.
round.
Why do you think so many games are scoreless for like 88 minutes, and then there's a 2-minute stretch where both teams score?
Oof. I think probably more than likely, if I had to take a guess, is that by usually around the 60th minute, players start to mentally tire. Right? Not so much physically, but they've been exerting themselves for 60 minutes, 65 minutes. That's why you see subs come on in those time periods.
Yeah.
And so I think that it ends up being like your mental sharpness that you had in the first 45 minutes, and enthusiasm and all those intangibles sort of have waned, and now you're like, got 30 minutes left, my legs, my this, and you start to lose that sharpness. That's
Yeah.
my
Okay.
that's my theory.
My interpretation was that among teams of similar level talent, that the first team scores, they let their guard down just a touch, and then the other team is more urgent because they're down one. Mm-hmm. But I've seen an amazing number of games where, like, you look you pull up the live stats or whatever, and the goals are like
Yeah.
12-17, and then 11-13 are the two goals,
Yeah.
and then the rest of the game nobody can score.
Nobody. Well, you know what they
Or
say
in the
too.
80th, yeah, like you said, in the 60th or 80th minute.
You know what they say too, like, which part may partly explain it. Like the first 5 minutes after a goal is when you, as the team that has just scored, is the most vulnerable.
Yeah, right.
Just
Yeah.
just by statistically looking at when goals are scored and stuff. So I hold to that. Like no one's ever convinced me otherwise. Which is
Yeah.
why everyone, I don't know if you've been to a game and you hear guys yelling next five, lock it down, because they know for 5 minutes they're the most vulnerable. And I don't know the science behind it, but
All right. Do you know the nickname of Southwestern?
Southwestern.
Okay, I'm gonna have to ding you. Time
Yeah,
limit.
time's up. I don't know.
Yep. All right, and
It's not the
Pirates.
banana slugs. Okay.
Pirates.
Okay.
And what about the nickname for St. Thomas? You mentioned earlier.
The Celts.
Correct. I was going to say Celts, but yes, it's the Celts. Excellent.
Yes.
No, we actually maybe next time we'll. Yeah, I think they're fantastic.
I think they're good. Another one. I think they're They could very well be the best Texas team.
Yeah, and there's I think 3 good Texas teams.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But I think they might
Right.
be.
No, I think they are.
I think in 2 weeks. I don't remember. I did the top 25. It came out this morning. I think St. Thomas and Trinity play like in a week or 2 weeks time frame. Maybe it's October 1st. That's going to be a banger. Like that's a game.
All right, now this is going to be. You can reserve the right to pass.
At which point you will give me complete shtick for passing.
No. But out of all the time that you've been doing this, what have been excluding myself, what have been your 3 favorite videos?
3 favorite.
Or you could make it most memorable or most whatever.
All right. So I'm going to start with the easy one.
Yeah.
Because and I'm going to blame Reuben Burke at Connecticut College. Because
The first one.
The very first one.
That was a really good one.
That as an interview. And I'll tell you what, because I had zero expectation that guy would ever get back to me. Like somebody said, "Oh, you should interview a coach," and I'm like, "Well, I might as well." And it was just around, like, I think the first video came out November 24th, so it was sometime in December. And sure enough, I got him on. That one. There's been so many like really great interviews and conversations I've had. I will say I love the dynamic of having somebody to talk to. I'm not a big fan of me speaking alone, so there would be too many for me to mention.
Now I remember that. That was fantastic. And then I think what happened, or at least from my perspective, is then you got like Singleton and like you got some people, because I think some of them were probably like, is this, should I do this or not do this? Is this for real? And then once some prominent, you got the Tufts, Desatel.
Yeah.
Once you got a handful of those guys, and I assume for the women's programs too, like.
Well, I talked to Coach Burke and I talked to Coach Gunderson at Christopher Newport just after they won. And it was, both of those were like, I can't believe I'm not nobody. I think I had like 37 subscribers to my YouTube channel. And I know for a fact I was one of the 37 subscribers. And then, Simple Players 1, 2, and 3 were subscribers. Right. So I really only had 33 subscribers to my channel. Yeah. And they were on. So
those people were key, and then it sort of went, and then it went viral. For like now, I think people are probably like, "How the hell am I gonna get on that damn Simple Coach show? Like, how to get on there for recruiting and
Yeah. Well, you know what? I do look. I've always said, look, if anything, if I'm a coach that like entertain me for an hour or whatever, hour and a half, just so that you'll have a video that you could send. Because like on this, I don't have any like pretensions of wanting to like. I just want to talk about the game.
yeah,
Like they could say whatever they want. So what a great tool for them, just from a video to have as a video that they could share with their prospects. So
okay. Last lightning round item.
MASH. No,
It's
Odd
taken.
Couple.
It's taken 20. No, I'm taking that one off. What were your favorite three? And you can be a little loose with the dates, but three favorite shows from like beginning of COVID till now. And by that I mean like TV shows, like binge watching something that has 3 or 4 years.
Okay, so this probably speaks more about me than. So I got very back into, I'll just say very broadly, science fiction. I've always been a big science fiction guy. And so I watched a lot of science fiction series, I think because they were cheap to make post-COVID. And then obviously, like I'm all giddy about, Dune, the new version of Dune. Although I am still probably one of the few fans of the original Dune movie back in the 80s that got panned. But so I would say that just very broadly. And then I again, this is probably more about me than like I started. Do you remember a show? It absolutely fantastic documentary called "The World at War."
Is that on the History Channel sometimes, or
Sometime I think maybe, but it is called "The World at War," and like the easiest way to remember it is like it's the beginning of the show where it says "World at War." It's like the backdrop is like flames. It's like fire, or explosion or something. Incredible documentary about World War II. One of the originals. So that's what I would say.
I should have had you ask me that question, but
okay. So I'm going to ask you of post-COVID, aside from my Simple Coach interviews.
yes, for me, the very first one was huge at the time, just because of what was going on. Like everybody was starving for anything. Was like The Last Dance of the Chicago Michael Jordan thing.
Yeah, that was actually very good too.
Ted Lasso,
not a fan.
Succession.
Okay, I watched a couple. Not a fan either.
One of the most. This is more recent, I think. Although sometimes I start watching something everybody's been talking about for 2 years, like 3 years later. But have you heard anybody talk about The Bear? Did you watch The Bear?
No.
But okay. All right.
Well, can I just tell you? Can we just talk philosophically about something?
Every lightning round thing can't be a winner. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You know what? I like finality. I like my shows that end, and I have a hard problem, even maybe, which is why I enjoyed things more. Like I can even watch Friends or Seinfeld because each episode would have a start and an end, and it wasn't carrying through to the next, right? Like same thing with the original Star Treks or even the Next Generation. Like it was just a story within 1 hour, and I kind of like that. The ones that just sort of never end. Like it's a plot that develop like I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it.
Yeah.
Can't do it. It's not my thing.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Petru. So I'm just gonna say this out for everyone that's watching. We have contractual commitments to do this every couple weeks, and yeah, and it's going to be this free flowing. We want to preserve your television career by not burdening you with tremendous research. So, quick hit topics, and then we'll just talk about them.
And just so any viewers don't have any confusion at all, I've received exactly 0 cents from you. So there is no contract.
Wow, we're supposed to make it sound like it's a really big deal, rather than just an email. Hey, you want to do this again?
Yeah. All right, Wartburg at North Park on the 15th, and JCU at OWU on the 16th, and Mary Washington at Emory on Sunday.
Yeah. What was the first one? Wartburg at
Wartburg at North Park. Wartburg's another one of those sneaky.
I
maybe
think
they
look
might
good.
be good.
Yeah, they're 4-0.
Yeah.
I think 4-0-1, maybe.
4-0-1.
Yeah, I think that's another team. Keep an eye out for.
Yeah.
So, all right,
buddy.
Mr. Petrus, great seeing you again.
All right, good seeing you again.
We'll reconvene. Thanks.
Okay.